What's up, you guys? I'm here with my good friend. And I mean, this time I say friend every time an episode starts because I believe that every guest is a friend, or else they'd say, hell no, I'm not going to be on the Chazway podcast. But this guy actually is my friend. I'm thinking we're probably 20 years in or so, roughly. This is Sam Stucky. If you look at his name on here, it says Corny Carney. That's his other name, one of many. But say hi, Sam. Say hi to our friends.
How are you doing, friends? It's very nice to be here with Chad's friends. Yay!
So I asked Sam to be on today. Actually, I'm lying. I asked Sam to be on a long time ago. And then what happened was his hand happened. There was an episode a few weeks ago where I was like, our guest couldn't make it. And this is the guy. And this is the hand. Would you like to talk about what happened literally a minute and a half before we got on?
So I'm sitting down here for Chaz's podcast. I'm getting ready. The Chaz way is all going on. It's all good. I had a nice backdrop. I had lights set up. I had everything set up, ready to go. And I have a drink, as I always do, my Diet Dr. Pepper, which is, terrible for me, but, we love it. And I went to put ice in it, and I do walk on a cane. My back is kind of screwed up right now. I'm all screwed up, and I fall onto the mason jar kaplam, and I basically cut my thumb off. Oh. So they use cadaver tendons to fix that. Did you? So that's dead people. That's like real life. This is a zombie thumb right there. Do you see that? That is a real live zombie thumb when it starts coming back. I'm very excited about having this.
Creepy and exciting at the same time. So Sam literally calls me. I mean, I'm sitting right here where I am right now, and he calls and he's like, "Hey, I just cut my thumb." And I'm like, whatever, dude. Like, we're about to go on. And he's like, no, I'm on my way to the hospital. I can send you a picture if you don't believe me. I'm like, of course I believe you, but go get it fixed. And y'all, it was way worse than I thought. And I'm not going to post pictures because you'll want to vomit, but he literally almost severed his whole thumb off. It was barely on. And so fortunately they cadaver tendoned some of the tendons back together. Yes. And he is alive and well. He just doesn't have all the use of his thumb.
Thumbs up. There you go.
Thumbs up-ish. Thumbs up-ish, kind of. So Sam and I have known each other forever, you guys, for a really, really long time. Some of you know, but I've been a gentleman's club DJ for a long time. And when I say long time, Sam's got me beat by probably over 10 years. He has been around a really, really long time, and he can tell you more about his story, but I know it starts in Corpus Christi, Texas area. Is it Corpus Christi?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm proud of your memory, brother. That's awesome.
And so, he's got a background there, and then he's worked around the Oklahoma City market in the gentleman's club industry as a DJ and an MC for years and years and years. And as I came up in the industry, I knew of Sam as well. And I was fortunate to work at really the number one club in this industry, in this market. And then Sam came on board with our company as well back in probably the mid 2000s, if I was guessing. Yeah.
I've been trying to figure it out. It was a long time ago. Yes.
Yeah. So it had to be mid 2000s. So yeah, we worked together for a long time. It was always the coolest thing and we were really, I'll be honest, not to sound, there's not a lot that I go all in and say I'm really good at, but I've been really fortunate to be a really good DJ in the gentleman's industry for a really long time.
Yes.
And there are not a lot of those, particularly in our market in Oklahoma City. There are a lot of great DJs in a lot of markets, not a ton in ours. And Sam and I have been definitely in the top few. I would be willing to bet top 3 or so for years. And, but we got to work hand in hand, side by side forever and ever and ever. For years. Multiple different clubs. Yeah, for sure. Multiple clubs. And then also in capacity. So it was either Sam was the DJ and I was the MC on stage with a mic, or vice versa. And the coolest thing about our working relationship is that, when it just meshes, and whether it's our sense of humor or just the way we, you know what song to play behind whatever's about to happen because it just works. It just has always worked. And I'm super thankful for that, because for me as a DJ, there's nothing more that's such a relief to know somebody gets it, because for somebody that's on stage, if you're the MC and somebody's in the booth, you put a lot of weight on them because you have to hope that they can carry the vibe. And we both have been really fortunate to do that for each other for years. It's been cool.
we've both been on the other end when somebody that wasn't one of us was at the other side, and it's really difficult to do it. It's very nice when you have somebody that clicks.
It is, and I think that makes us appreciate each other so much. So it's been cool for business, but it's also been cool from a friend standpoint. The other awesome thing I think is, just to give you a little bit of just edification, is that the friendship has been in and out of the club. I was out of the industry for 8 years. I do work part-time back in the industry. Sam never left yet. He's a diehard. And so I do part-time DJ in the bars. I'm back into that. Just as a part-time gig, and so, but Sam and I never lost contact, and Sam's, pursued some other, other visions that he has had. And I've watched Sam grow. As it's kind of crazy. You evolve from living this lifestyle, especially when we're younger, that it's like, we're just like wrapped around this, I'll call it the bar life, even though it's just work, but it's the life that we live. But at some point we get a little, there is lifestyle. Yeah. But as we get older, you start to evolve kind of out of that, and your picture gets bigger. You can paint a picture of what's possible. And so I got to really see you, really like, I think your passion started coming to see other things that were possible. Yes. And so that turns me to a great spot where we could segue over to why you're dressed in a very funky shirt and a cool hat. And so a couple years ago, I'm just going to give you the floor. Let's start with this. Several years ago, Sam moved out of town and up to Guthrie, Oklahoma, onto 50 acres, bunch of cabins on his property. He's an animal lover. His background's so crazy. I hope you'll talk a little bit about that, but I'll stop talking. I'd love to hear some of your background, but I really also want to talk about when you kind of, rewrote what your story is going to look like, and you took on this new brand. Where did that all come from?
I've tried several different things. I've been in the same business for a really long time. And the thing about being in the bar business, Chaz, as you well know, is you make money and you have a lot of free time. Now, when you're young and you're in the lifestyle, that free time is spent in the lifestyle doing foolish things. And as you get older, you realize, hey, I can be actually productive in that downtime. And so that's kind of what I've tried to do. My big thing, you were talking about the background. I was also a zookeeper for 30 years. As I was working in the bar at night, I was working with wild animals during the day. And I have some crazy stories from that. If you want to go into them, we always can, because animal stories are always fun. People like them. But I moved out here to the place that I'm at now to build a bed and breakfast / wild animal park. I've always wanted for 30 years to have my own wild animal park. And I finally bought this place and was able to do that. And as I'm building, there were some things changing, and I think there's some laws changing. And in all honesty, they haven't changed all that much yet, but they're about to now. So I was about a decade too early in my, but I stopped with the wild animal park. I decided that's not going to be for me, because I'm afraid that eventually it's going to become illegal. So I switched over, and I was looking for different things, and I found bounce houses, and that's why I'm dressed like this, because I'm the new bounce house king of Oklahoma.
Wow. If you miss that, he is the bounce house king of Oklahoma.
There's a little hyperbole to that, but you know what I mean? It's all good.
I love it. I can't spell hyperbole and don't even know what it means. So that's awesome in itself.
Well, I can use big words, Chaz. I don't necessarily know what they all mean either, but I can use them.
I love that. So, okay, so that's super crazy. Interesting about the wild animal park stuff and having your own. I think it's awesome. I have watched you. I know your love for animals, and I know that has not died. Like, you love animals. And that's something I admire about you so much is your love for animals. So let's just talk for a little bit about that. Cause you're humble and you don't talk about it, but you have been a huge part of some wild animal parks. Where did your love for wild animals, like cats, for example? I love tigers. Where did your love for those come from?
So when I was a kid, just like all the other kids, I went out and, I'm a little redneck kid from little town in western Oklahoma. I was out catching snakes and lizards and bringing them home because I thought that was cool. We always had horny toads at that time, and just all these different stuff as pets. And I never really lost that. And as a teenager, I always had a job. I had a paper route or something, but I always had a job, so I always had money. And wasn't cool enough to have a girlfriend. So I just spent my money on dumb stuff. And I figured out you could buy higher quality reptiles than what you could catch in your backyard. So I started kind of doing that, and I kind of learned to breed some stuff. I started breeding some frogs and some other stuff, and it moved up to my first big investment in the animal business was an animal at that time called an Australian, what did they call it? Pocket pouch or something. Anyway, it wound up being a sugar glider. And I was one of the first people to import sugar gliders into the United States, me and several other people. And we brought them out, and we learned to breed them, and we learned a bunch of stuff off of them. And that was my first foray into commercial breeding of exotic animals. And from there, it just kind of blossomed into other stuff.
Okay.
There
wow.
You go.
Crazy.
So most of the sugar gliders that you see today, a lot of them were bred in that original.
From stem back from there. Wow.
Yes.
And what about wild animal park stuff? And I don't know if I'm using the right terminology with wild animal parks, but I know that there are a few in Oklahoma. We won't put a lot of talk into it, but I know you were a part of some of those. Talk about that.
So I was breeding giant sulcata tortoises down in Corpus Christi. And I was called by an outfit that was putting a place together, and they called it the Corpus Christi Zoo. And I went out there and looked at it, and I said, hey, I had some ideas. And I went out there and I immediately started shouting off ideas. And I was willing to put my back where my ideas were and actually put some of them together. And before long, boom, I was in with Corpus Christi Zoo. And from there, I had credentials. I could go anywhere else. And I've I'm one of the few people that's actually started from scratch 3 separate wild animal parks in 2 different states. And I was working on, because I did all of that so that I could open my own wild animal park here, but I wound up not going a different way. So.
Wow. That's awesome.
But 3 different times I've opened wild animal parks, and I think that's pretty cool. There's not very many people that have that resume.
What is your favorite wild animal?
I've always liked the snakes and the lizards. That's my thing. I've always liked the snakes and the lizards. But as far as wild animals concerned, and kind of what my specialty is, kind of what I'm known for, is the big cats, and mainly the tigers and the lions, the big stuff. I like the leopards, but they don't usually like me. It's funny how you don't get to pick that, by the way.
You're right.
They like me, they like. But yeah, I've got a lot of. I've known for primarily with raising big cats and stuff. I've been to Africa 3 times working on the cheetah rescue thing over there. We went to the largest cheetah breeding facility in the world in South Africa. I've been there 3 times, and it's pretty cool. We did some vet care. We got to dart some lions and stuff while we were over there and do some vet work on them. It's pretty cool.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, so and I'm a huge big cat lover. Ironically, okay, I'll tell you this quick story. Totally like side note. So first of all, you probably know this about me. I love tigers. That is my favorite animal. I love tigers. Ironically, I can't stand cats, like house cats. Never owned one in my life. Well, we rent this property we live on here, and we moved here just over a year ago. Early May was a year. And when we got this, we're on 5 acres, and there's a shop. And when we were just about to sign our 3-year lease here, the property owner, actually was the landlord. She's like, hey, I forgot to mention to you guys, the homeowner wanted to make sure you're okay. There's 2 barn cats. Now, we don't have a barn. It's a shop, but they're called barn cats, right? There's 2 barn cats. And Anna, by the way, not only, I don't want to speak for Anna. She would disagree. She does not like animals. Okay. She'll tell you that's not true. It is true. But the reason is because she has severe,
I'm coming for you.
She has severe allergies, and she's explained to me it's not fair for you to say I don't like animals, but you have to understand I grew up with such severe allergies that animals to me equal crazy allergies, and so she's like, it's not that I don't like them, it's just that for me I have this instant like
she enjoys breathing more than she enjoys seeing the kids.
For sure, and I respect that. I just like animals, so for me it's hard to digest all that, but. So whenever they're like, we have these 2 barn cats, first of all, my first thought is like, selfishly, I'm like, I don't like cats. Actually, let me be honest, I hate cats. I don't even like the word hate. I hate cats. Second of all, I'm like, I don't want to take care of them. My third thought is like, Anna's darn sure not going to be down with this. But I really liked the house, and I really liked the property. So I'm like, how do we compromise? And so Anna's like, well, that's fine, but I don't want anything to do with them. So long story short, or longer, we said yes. And so the deal was like, they obviously they don't come in the house. They roam the property a little bit. They stay really close. Like our we're on 5 acres. The house is pretty much right in the middle. Shop's right outside, 10 feet away. And they really do live in the shop. They're kitty litter box in the shop. Their water and their food's in the shop. They live in the shop. The truth is these cats are super cool. And I've gotten to like them a lot. Like they're so cool. They're calm, they're chill. They like to they'll follow us. Braxton will be out riding his dirt bike, or I'll be mowing and I'll look back and they're kind of sort of curious what you're doing. Yep. They're just cool, man. But there's one part that's interesting, and that is that we've started noticing coyotes around. And Sam, we're down to one cat.
Oh, coyotes are bad this year.
Yeah, and I listen. I'm not heartbroken because I started this journey not liking cats, right? But the cool thing is there's 2 cats, and one of them was my favorite. So when we moved in, they were named Sadie and Grace, but they're very similar looking. So we've called them both Sadie Grace because we don't know which one's which. We really don't. We still don't know. So now Sadie Grace is still alive because the other Sadie Grace is gone. And I'm almost positive the coyotes took her. My point of the story is I don't like domestic cats, but I kind of like this barn cat, and it keeps little snakes and rodents away. So
yep.
I've learned to,
and it keeps the mice away. And if you keep the mice away, it'll keep the snakes away. So it all works out.
And I absolutely despise of snakes, which I know you're a fan of snakes. I am not a fan of snakes. Braxton would love for them to be all over. I freaking can't. I don't like snakes.
Just not.
So I wanted to share all that pointless information with you because it's kind of cool that there's a cool cat around. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more you get to hang out with that cat and see its personality, the more it'll win you over. You don't like cats because you don't know cats. Because
I think that's what's blown my mind is that they really do have a personality.
They really do have a personality.
It's really
now they can be little jerks. I mean, they can be little jerks when they want to because that's what they do. But
yeah. Okay, so. Tell me, there's 2 things I want to know about animals, and then we'll move on. But one is, what is your coolest, the coolest cat story you've got over all your years of experience with cats? What's the coolest one?
Okay, the cat story would have to be, like you've been around a Chihuahua that doesn't know its size, or like a big Great Dane that wants to get in your lap because it doesn't understand size. Like animals don't put that together. It's the same thing with tigers. And the reason keepers get hurt with tigers is not due to usually aggression by the tigers. It's usually size difference. Like when you and I were to see each other, 2 old friends, we'd be like, "Hey, Chaz, how you doing?" And we would shake hands. Well, you wouldn't shake that hand, but you might shake that hand. You know what I mean? Well, tigers don't have hands. They just bash their heads into each other. That's how they greet each other. They headbutt each other. Boom. That's friendly tiger stuff. Well, that's all well and good if you're a 600-pound tiger headbutting a 600-pound tiger. But when you're a 200-pound tiger, you know what I'm saying, and you get headbutted, it does hurt.
Wow.
But I had this cat, his name was Thor, and Thor I had raised as a baby. And Thor was well over 700 pounds, and he was just the sweetest thing in the whole world. He just loved everybody. And I was in the cage with him one time, and with the pins, the way we built the pins is you use a 4-inch metal pipe for the uprights, and then you fill that with concrete. And that just makes sure that no tiger can push that over. You know what I'm saying? It's just a safety thing, right? So that's how solid that pipe is. Well, I'm leaned up against that pipe, and here comes Thor and we're petting and we're playing, and Thor tries to get in my lap. And this cat weighed 700 pounds, and he had my leg pinned up against that concrete-filled pipe, Chaz, like this, pushed up against it. And he's pushing as hard as he can. He's not just 700 pounds. He's 700 pounds of muscle. So he's got all this power. He's shoving as hard as he can. He's doing nothing malicious. He's trying to get in my lap and love me. Yeah. In reality, he's about to break my leg. You know what I mean? And that was an interesting deal for me to get out of that. Once I finally got out of that, that was the last time I got in the cage with Thor. Even though he was still a friendly cat, he was now dangerous because of his overzealous love. Does that make sense? So we became a through the fence relationship from that. But that's really one of the craziest stories I've had.
That is wild. How about did you have a scary story? I mean, that is a little bit scary, but scary. That was scary, like non-maliciously.
I've had scary stories with any kind of animal. Like I've been bit by, there's not much of an animal that you can name that hasn't been bit. I had my left bicep ripped by a black leopard. I was knocked unconscious by a black bear. I was almost disemboweled by a water buffalo. Like I've got some stories, Chess.
You have so many. Okay, so
I have 100 stitches from the top of my head to my feet. I have over 100 stitches from just monkey bites. Only the monkeys, not anything else, just monkey bites. I've got over 100 stitches.
really,
It's been a crazy time, brother.
wow, that's insane. So, one of the things one of the animal things, I think two things, when it comes to animals is that I love there's maybe they're tortoises, maybe they're turtles. So correct me. I don't think you have any at all anymore, but you had some very large. Were they turtles or tortoises?
The tortoise is a turtle that doesn't go in the water. All of his feet are flat, Chaz.
Okay.
If you were to put my tortoises in the water, they would sink to the bottom and drown. I have desert tortoises. They're called sulcatas, and they're very large. They're the third largest tortoise species on the planet.
Okay. Cicada that's the type.
Sulcata.
Okay. You don't have any anymore?
I have one female, and she's pretty good size.
Okay. And then the other thing that you had and may still have is African crested porcupine.
I have one left. Yes.
Really? Is it a big one?
My big male just passed away about 2 months ago, and he was 24 years old, and that's pretty old for an African crested porcupine.
Okay.
But I've got the female still, and they have big quills.
Yeah, huge quills. I remember being at your house years ago, and I remember seeing one of them, or probably a few at the time. You had a couple of them, and those quills are just insane, and they're the coolest looking quills. I remember I had one, and
they're amazing. We were talking about it. I wish I would have grabbed one and had one out here for you to look at, because they're really cool. They're as big around as a pencil. It's an interesting looking quill. It's not just
so cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's awesome. Okay. Moving away from animals, the Bounce House King of Oklahoma. Now, I'm going to say this because we're going to get into some business talk now. Mm-hmm. I'm going to challenge your business talk. Like I love this stuff.
Okay.
But I'm going to encourage you to just be the Bounce House King and not the Bounce House King of Oklahoma, because I know,
where
I know your vision, and it's way bigger than Oklahoma.
Yes.
So this is the Bounce House King that we're talking to. And where did that come from? And where is it going? I want to know where did the idea come from? And then let's go from there.
All right. So on this big piece of property that I have, I've got plenty of room to do whatever I want to on it. And I had a big 4th of July thing out here, brought my family out. And for that, I built a bunch of giant sized games. Like I built giant dice, and I had giant Jenga, and anything that I can think of that was a little kid's game that I can make a giant sized version. I did like Kerplunk, the marbles game, the marbles game, Kerplunk, where you pull the little sticks out, the marbles come down. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I made an 8-foot tall one that used beach balls. You know what I'm saying? Just stuff like that, right? It was just cool. I'm very creative, and I like to do stuff like that. And I got this great idea. Hey, I'm going to start renting these giant games out to people's backyard parties. I think that's great. Well, come to find out, there's no market for that at all. There is a market for bounce houses, and then you can add the giant games as add-ons. So they're a niche of a niche market. Okay. So I started off in this little tiny market right here, realized it wasn't there, and realized I needed this other thing to go. So boom, I grabbed some used bounce houses. I got everything I didn't need. I got all the wrong stuff in the beginning because that's how I do things. Sweet. And got ready and I got hurt, so I had to slow it down a little bit. And we waited a year, and I learned a whole bunch of stuff in that year that I didn't open. And then the next year, boom, we were going to open, and we opened on May the 1st, and we were shut down by May the 15th because of COVID. So there you go.
Wow.
My first year in was a year and a half long, and boom, it lasted 15 days.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I think we grow the most in adversity, so that's okay. And then, so what has happened, like going through the struggles of that season of your 15-day season one, right? Like where have you like, first of all, you talked about all the learning you did, and let's talk about that for a minute, because you had some options. I don't ever like to give COVID a lot of energy because it just doesn't deserve it, frankly. Right. Good or bad, it just doesn't deserve it. But for me, I feel like I really rose through COVID. I think you have an opportunity to or had the opportunity to go whatever direction you chose through COVID. For me, I chose to blinders on, straightforward, positive, make your way through this. We're going to come out on top. And that's what I chose to do, which is why I did exactly that. I came out on top. And the people that chose that route mindset have won. I think you won through COVID. Doesn't mean it wasn't a serious thing to some degree for some people. But those who chose to have the right mindset grew through it. And so it sounds like in that downtime, and also you being hurt.
So I've already had a little practice doing that, because the year before I had a dolly break, and that was the first time I hurt my back, which is an injury that has recurred now. Okay. Right. So that was the first time. And I was on my back for quite a while then. And I decided, man, I'm just not going to, these bounce houses are heavy. I'm just going to push this whole thing back a year because I don't really know what I'm doing. And as I learned all the things that I did wrong, so I could correct a lot of them before I even opened to the public. So that was kind of cool. I took that time to do that. And I used that time right there to come up with a lot of this. Yeah. All my marketing and stuff, I got to sit down and learn about marketing. And it's just something that you don't really, when you're running a business, especially a new business, you're so busy running the business that you don't have time to learn all the other skills that you need to make the business successful. Yeah. So I could actually focus on the marketing while I wasn't marketing and actually learn it before I went out there. And I think that really helped me out a lot.
Absolutely. I think that's awesome. I think it probably something that was one of your greatest assets that perhaps you may have not worked out if you hadn't had that injury, so
exactly.
It's really a blessing in disguise. Yeah. So through that, learning the marketing stuff, it makes me wonder, what was the name Inflatable Carnival always going to be the name?
Okay. So with the name, I was just looking, I wanted something to rhyme, and I wanted to either have the word bounce or inflatable or jump in it. Right. And so I like multisyllable rhymes. So I just came up with Inflatable Carnival because those names kind of rhyme a little bit. And that's all it was. It was just a name. It was just Inflatable Carnival, and it just kind of rhymed. And that's all. There was nothing branded. It was just two names that kind of rhymed. And I watched a Netflix documentary on the circus, and I realized the carnival and the circus were kind of together in the beginning of things, and everything just clicked. I saw a guy with a hat, and I said, boom, that's it right there. With this derby hat, I saw the carnival barker had the derby hat. I went, okay. So then we made the logo look more like a circus. We came up with the red and white stripes. I became the carnival barker for this whole thing. And we just went to town after that, and step right up, and welcome to the Inflatable Carnival, the greatest party on earth. And this is the greatest show on earth from the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey. I stole all of it.
Oh, I love it. And listen, a lot of business builders and entrepreneurs listen to this show, and I think it's great. Like making hopefully some mental notes or some jotting down some notes that's okay. Like it's like, first of all, marketing, huge, so important, easy to drop the ball, but also secondly, like think about what you have done with that. Like you say, hey, I stole all of it. Well, what you've done is you've taken something that worked before, it's worked huge for so many years, and you've just reinvented it a little bit, and you've made it work for you. You've just kind of repurposed it in a way that works for you. And I think that's awesome. I love what you're doing. And frankly, until you told me that one-on-one, probably a year ago, however long ago, I wouldn't have known that. Now, obviously there's similarities you see, with a circus master or whatever, So tell me where are you now? Fast forward to today with your business. I know that you had a phenomenal 21, I guess. The tail end of 21 was great. Where are you now? Here we are, summer of 22.
The two last years were insane growth. Chess, they were just grow. That's the whole point of this, was to just grow, get as big as we can. The more inventory of the business that I have, the more inventory you have, the more you can rent, the more you can make. That's just the way it goes, right? The more. And we were all set up, ready to go. This year is my year. This is the year that it is going to take off. And that's the year my back injury goes back in, and I'm back on my back again. Okay, well, I took a little. The other one, they got me up running around a lot better 3 years ago. This time, I'm still on the cane. They don't have me up running around as good as I once was. So, and that's part of the reason that I did this, is because I'm not very sturdy on the cane, and I fell. But so we are putting the brakes on this year. We're still doing stuff. We're still doing big stuff, but we're not doing nearly the projected what we were going to do, and that's okay. I've completely been, we've gone just bang, 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 bang for the last 2 years. And this year was going to just set up. And you know what? We're going to limp through this year and we're going to set up next year. And that's exactly what we're going to do. And I'm totally okay with that, because
Good.
sometimes life hands you lemons and you've just got to roll with the punches. It's not always about beating it. Sometimes it's about rolling with the waves. And this year it's about rolling with the waves. And I'm okay with that.
Good. Well, it sounds like you've really come to an understanding that that's maybe exactly what you're supposed to do this year. And that's totally okay, because also during this year, just get better. Not just, physically. Yes. I mean, get physically better. Yes. But get better at your crafts too. You know?
Absolutely. And I've got other things that I want to do that if we were as busy as I thought we would be, I wouldn't have time to do the other things that are going to propel later on in life.
Yeah. Hey, so if somebody wants, like your experience is way bigger, and what I mean by your experience is the inflatable carnival is way bigger than, somebody calls Joe Blow's inflatable.
Right.
Company. So what does it look like if somebody wants to rent an inflatable? Just walk me through that process. First of all, where would they find you online?
Inflatablecarnival.net is our website. I'm a terrible tech guy, but I've got most of the stuff up on it. Okay. But we have great tech. We have a great website. You type in the date that you want and it'll only show you the stuff that's available on that date. So you won't be looking at something and be like, man, I really want this. Oh, I got this pirate ship over here. I really want this pirate ship. Well, it's booked out on Timmy's birthday. So you put Timmy's birthday in first and it only shows you what is available for that day.
That's awesome.
And that's very helpful for both sides.
Yeah, that's incredible. Okay, so you go to the website, inflatablecarnival.net, and you put in the date and it's going to show you the different, and you have so many themes, like a pirate ship too. I mean, give me like 5 or 6 different crazy different types. We're not just talking about a bounce house, you guys. Talk about some of the options. We have
the regular bounce houses, which are quite popular. A bounce house with a slide on it is called a combo, and we have multiple. That's one of our more popular things because it gives you more than just a bounce house. It's a bounce house and a slide in the same unit, and that gives kids plenty of things to do. That's one of our most popular units. We have the water slides. We have the little water slides for the little kids. We have the great big monster water slides if the adults want to play on them or the kids are, going crazy. We've got the obstacle courses. We've got the bungee runs. We've got the joust. We've got the boxing. We've got any kind of interactive. We've got foosball. We've got so much stuff, Chaz. It's all fun. Every bit of it's fun. And besides just all the bounces, all the crazy bounces, we have a full snow cone, cotton candy, popcorn machines. We got a hot dog roller. We can do movies outside. We're full-fledged. We've got some tents. We've got some chairs and tables. We're a full-fledged party rental company. Anything you want for your party, we can provide that.
That's incredible. So if somebody wants to, they want to throw a party for their teen, or let's scale it back. They got like this 10-year-old birthday party, right? And they want to have this huge party. They want to include some inflatables. They don't even know where to start. It sounds to me like not only can they get their inflatables, but they can also get some tables and chairs and maybe a tent. And maybe if they want to do hot dogs and popcorn and snow cones, you literally could bring the party, not just the bounce house, but the party to them.
Absolutely. We have a speaker they can Bluetooth their phone to if they want to have some tunes for their party. We can do anything you need to do.
I love that. And that's an inflatablecarnival.net.
Yes. Yes, it is.
That's exciting. That's so cool, man. That's awesome. All right. And so, like that. Yeah. And so like, are you love what you're doing? Cause like the other thing is let's spin this a little bit to the character of Corny Carney. Cause we haven't really talked about that, but there is that shtick also that goes with the brand. Let's talk about the character and how that came to be.
So when I saw the documentary, I saw the derby hat and I'm like, man, I really like that hat. That's really going to be the genesis of the character is the hat. And so we got the hat and I tried several different outfits on and I finally had an outfit that stuck and I liked it. It's not this one, but it's similar to this. At the first, I had the outfit was all I had. I didn't have a name. And the name of this guy was Birthday Bert. That's a terrible name, Chaz. Because I figured I'd do birthday parties. So I was going to be Birthday Bert. That's a terrible name. I'm so glad I didn't go with first impressions.
I'm really glad too. I'm really glad.
Birthday Bert. That's one of the worst things I've ever come up with. But so I don't really know. I always liked the name Carney, and I was trying to come up with something like when I was a kid, I was in the Kiss Army, and they sent you a dog tag. And I remember that was back to the comic books, and you sent them the $3 or the $5 or whatever it was, and they sent you back a dog tag, and it said Kiss Army and had your name on it. And I wanted something like that for maybe the inflatables. I was trying to think of something like maybe I'm just going to call these people Carnies, because Carney is kind of an insult to call somebody a carny. That means you're kind of a liar, you know?
Sure.
And I'm like, someone call people carnies, like, come be a carny, come be a carny. And that never really worked out or whatever. And we were just kind of talking, and corny, somebody called me corny or something like that. I'm the corny carny. The corny carny. That's the greatest thing, because it's two double negatives. Like being called corny is a terrible thing, and being called a carny is a terrible thing. And you put them together and it makes something wonderful.
Yeah, that's cool. And one of the things I like about it is that maybe it's a double negative, but also it's very slapstick, if you will. Like it's not,
yes.
The character is very silly. It's very uplifting. And I don't know how much you want to dive into like the layers of what you've created for this with, you know, the coloring stuff and there is not only is there is, can we go there? Is that public?
Sure.
Like, yeah, so you've created so much to go along with that character and with the inflatable carnival as well, but it's all very, it's a really positive character. And I think it's something that I think could easily get overlooked. So if you want to maybe share a little bit about like maybe your vision of what you could see, like if you were to think 3 to 5 years from now, if you were having a conversation about that character, where is that character? Because I think it's pretty big.
It's I've got a lot going on with this whole thing. I've got a whole little universe stuck up in my head, and I would like to do some kind of a children's programming, be that a cartoon or a live action or a puppet show, something along those lines. And I'm kind of working to that extreme with this whole thing. I'm old. And when I was a kid on television, we had the McDonald Land gang. Do you remember that, Chaz? Do you remember that?
I do, because I'm not nearly as old as you, but I am old-ish. No, I do. I totally. The Hamburglar, right?
The Hamburglar and all those guys. Yep. And so I've kind of created a whole gang of friends for Corny Carney to interact with. Popcorn the Party Bear is my best friend. We have the world's greatest superhero is our idol, and that's Hot Dog the Blue Coyote. And we have Snow Cone Cold is our DJ, because you got to have a DJ, you know. And
yeah.
And we have a girl who is Candy Cotton, and we have an enemy named the Party Pooper. And we have to defeat the evil Party Pooper to make the party work, you know. So
okay.
It's very campy and very silly, and there's a lot of dad jokes, and this is just my little thing that I like. Yeah.
I love it, dude. I love it. So
I'm very silly.
I think it's awesome. And I love your creativity, man. You and I talk often about kind of the vision of, because we've both kind of gone in a few different directions with business, and it's been fun over the years to be able to champion for each other, you know?
Yes. And everything that you've done up to this point is helping you with your real estate.
Yeah.
And everything that I've done up to this point with all the other stuff, you know what I mean, is all helping me here now. And it's interesting to see all of that. Hey, I did this thing. It didn't work out for me, but I can use those skills that I learned over there here and go from there.
Isn't that interesting? And you know what's crazy? Like, I don't, I won't apologize for talking about me for a second. I was going to apologize in advance, but I'm not going to. What's crazy is like I started DJing at 18 years old, you know, and then you know, a few years later got into the bar business and DJ'd, and as we already talked about earlier. But I have to tell you, like, what's brought me the most joy over the last year or two is starting a podcast. And I had no clue. First of all, I had no clue I would ever do a podcast, but I had no clue the networking it would bring me, the relationships I'd build, or more importantly, the relationships that I've built over the last 4 or 5 years doing these other businesses that were like I was hanging everything in these buckets that I were like, we're going to be my future, even though it didn't end up turning out that way. I was building these relationships. I was learning and growing.
You can still get to that bucket. That bucket may not have done what you wanted it to, but you can still get to that bucket.
Absolutely. So it was like, it still was trickling to where I ended up wanting, you know, to not the end all be all, because I'm not there yet. I'm not at the end all. Like I'm always evolving, you know, and just like you, But it's interesting how it's taking me. It's continuously evolving to a place. And here I am now with a podcast. And then I have relationships with people and the people I've met and the growth that I've had. And so it's interesting how it just intertwines and continuously you get to grow. And like you said, really, you do evolve. And it takes you to where your business is now having success because of some of the experiences you've had. And same with me with real estate and with podcasting. You know, it's really wild. It's just fun. It's fun to evolve, you know.
I'm proud of your podcast. I listened to several of them. They're very good. You do very well. You're leading this conversation very well too, by the way. Thank you for that.
I appreciate it. That's awesome. Thank you. So what I would love to know as we kind of close things up here is, what do you want to see for the inflatable carnival and for Corny Carney and for his sidekicks in the next 365 days? And this is a great time to ask that because we're mid-May. So we're like a year from now, you're rocking and rolling. Because the reality is this is a season of like, this is your season, you know? So where are you a year from
May,
now?
June, July is the hot season for what I do for this business.
And by the way, again, humble, you won't say this, but last year I watched you think you were going to have one busy quarter, like not a calendar quarter, but May, June, July. Your quarter, your May, June, July was May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Oh shit, it's January. We're still doing good.
We had crazy. It was insane. I was totally expecting to stop by October. Halloween was going to be my last month, and we were hanging and banging in September and December and January.
I know. It was the coolest thing to see you just constantly. It's like, oh my gosh, the phone's still ringing. The gigs are still coming. The bookings are still showing up. So it was so cool to see. So, but really like in all honesty, like from serious business to also vision, where do you want to be in just 1 year from now? I mean, truly, where do you want to be? All things considered, with a few little setbacks and adjustments and adapting.
In the business that I'm at, people don't really set themselves apart, right? It's the bounce house business, and you're just in the bounce house. Hey, I got bounce houses. Come and see me. I might be so and so. I might be this. I might be, jumping this and bouncing this and whatever. But I'm just bounce houses. Come get bounce houses for me and go on. I'm really trying to come up with a brand and have the brand be the thing. People to think, oh my gosh, they don't want to think bounce house party. They want to think inflatable carnival party.
Yeah.
And I'm a big Gary Vee fan, as are you. And he says brand over everything. So I have really pushed brand over everything in all the advertisements that I do, everything like this. It's been brand first, bounce houses second. And in the beginning, that's a really slow way of building stuff, because if I would have just hit bounce houses like everybody else, I could have grown faster. But what I did was I laid those foundation for this brand. And I have one of, if not the strongest brand in the entire country for bounce houses. And I'm kind of proud of that. In just a couple of years, I built that. So I'm kind of proud of that. And I just want to continue that on. I want to, I do a lot of the animations and a lot of the videos and stuff, but I'm kind of under the weather now. I mean, my back is all screwed up, so I can't do much lifting, so I can at least do stuff on the phone. And now I got my hands screwed up, so I can't do stuff on the phone right now, but it'll come. My day will come back and we'll get this. And I have a ton of ideas. But I don't want to spoil too much, so I'm not going to say too much, but this thing is going to get big. That's all I have to say. This thing's going to get big.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, dude, I appreciate your time. It's so funny. We've been really, really, really trying to do this podcast for so long. And it's funny because there's been other setbacks. And then the last one was, shoving a piece of glass in your hand, trying to cut your thumb off. And if you needed an excuse that day, you could have just been like, hey, dude, I can't do it.
I can't do it. Let's just cut the thumb and see what we get. Yeah.
I got one better than just saying no. I'll just show him. But it just makes for more of a story, I reckon. Yes. And I don't think I told you this, but I always like to get an email from whoever's going to be the guest, because I like to email over like a calendar invite. And so your email address is like Wild Sam Stucky or Wild Sam something, right?
Yeah.
So I had already built all the images. In fact, I'll probably still use them. So I build, not build like so in terminology, so like not built like a house, but I build as in like I created and I promote. I was already building like the images and everything for this podcast original as Wild Sam Stucky. prior to knowing you were going to cut your thumb off. Like, so it's not funny, but it's so funny that like I had already created the images and stuff for this podcast before we ever went on the air. And because when I saw your email address was Wild Sam, like I'll play off that. I know we're going to talk about animals. We'll talk about the inflatable carnival. And so I was like, oh, Wild Sam Stucky, it works. Like, so I have them. Like, that's what I'll probably still use the same ones. And it's just so funny that it was like, again, funny, not funny, but it's like, oh, well, how freaking fitting is this? You know? It's wild, all right. So
it is wild. This is the wildest podcast. This full contact podcasting going on, Chaz.
Yeah, absolutely. So, dude, I appreciate it. I believe that the rest of the year will be great. I think next year is going to be awesome. And I want to tell you, as we close, I want to tell you just on a personal note, it's really cool to see you be able and willing to overcome adversity because you've always been adaptable. Like you make things work. I get it. You're great at that. But also to see your spirit be willing to do that and not get too down because it's easy to get down and you've been there. We've both been there many times. We'll be there again because we're not perfect, but it's really cool to see you willing to go, you know what? Like, hey, dude, like this is just a season. We'll make it through. We'll keep pushing forward. Right.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for being on.
Positive. Keeping the positive.
Where can they find you once again? Website is what?
Inflatablecarnival.net. You can follow us on Facebook. I'm not putting out a lot of videos this year just because, but we do really funny videos on Facebook if you want to check us out sometime.
Okay. And I'll put all that stuff in the description too.
Absolutely. June the 10th through the 12th, come to Guthrie because we're doing the Renaissance Fair and I'm going to be there with the big pirate thing. And it's going to be awesome.
Big pirate thing, Guthrie, Oklahoma. Sounds good. Well, I won't be there, but everybody else can show up. How about that?
That's perfect.